Well, good morning. I wanted to start off, I really appreciate everybody being here today to talk about these very important, timely issues. But I want to start off by addressing the announced legislation by the Senate based on their negotiations that was released last evening. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has made it very clear this bill is an absolute non-starter in the House of Representatives. It leaves far to the Biden administration, which we have already seen incredible negligence from in securing the southern border. It would effectively allow 5,000 illegal immigrants to cross our borders every single day. That's 1.46 million every year. This deal even allows massive workarounds on the caps and just gives all the discretion to the Biden administration, which has already failed us time and again. It does not end catch and release policies that have been a major contributor to this crisis, and instead gives asylum seekers automatic work permits. That further fuels this problem. It's like putting a neon sign saying, come on in, we're open for business. And that's been the problem that we've faced as we've been rubber stamping people as asylum seekers. I cannot vote for anything that will provide amnesty and further incentivize illegal immigration. This deal is a disingenuous attempt to address the concerns that the American people have raging right now. You know, they're watching the footage, they're seeing the stories every single day and watching what's going on at the southern border, and they cannot stomach this going on any further. This is not an honest attempt to tackle that problem. We need to get to the root of the problem and shut down the border. House Republicans have been dedicated to fighting for border security policies since day one of this Congress. In a few hours, my colleagues on the House Rules Committee and I will be considering 2 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. After a year-long investigation on the crisis at the southern border, the House Committee on Homeland Security found that Mayorkas is chiefly responsible for the chaos and the devastation that has unfolded over the past 3 years at our nation's borders. The impact of this border crisis has reached far beyond our southern states. As many New Yorkers have experienced in the last few years the chaos that the migrant crisis has brought. The situation has escalated to such an extent that the state of New York is now spending billions of dollars of your hard-earned tax dollars to address the fallout of their sanctuary city policies and this Biden border crisis. We're seeing kids being forced in New York City into remote learning so that public schools can be repurposed for housing for illegal immigrants. The very same people that have disrespected our laws and are bringing the same violent crime to our state. I am disgusted at the reports that we saw over the summer of the sexual assault that asylum seekers here in Western New York brought on our community. I've also spent a lot of time hosting roundtables across my district, all across the southern tier and here in Erie County on the fentanyl crisis. This drug is coming across our southern border every single day. The Chinese produce it, they sell it to the cartels, they mule it into the country, and they kill our kids. They've killed thousands of Americans, leaving our local law enforcement to clean up the mess. And now, in a move that defies any reason whatsoever, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has decided that we need to give $53 million in hard-earned taxpayer dollars to on prepaid credit cards to those that have come into this country illegally. This is pure madness, and it puts people that break the laws first, and it puts the hard-working, law-abiding taxpayer last. When we look at the border crisis that has hurt communities like ours across the country, we can't ignore the actions of Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Those actions have led to this. He must be held accountable, and that's why we're pursuing articles of impeachment today. The first article of impeachment is based on Secretary Mayorkas' willful and systematic refusal to comply with the federal immigration laws and his actions that have undermined the rule of law. This is a direct violation of his oath of office. Despite clear evidence that the Biden administration's policies have led to unprecedented illegal immigration, the fentanyl crisis, cartel control at the southern border, and debilitating financial costs, Secretary Mayorkas has implemented Biden's catch-and-release scheme, violating detention requirements and misusing parole authority. The second article of impeachment centers around his complete breach of the public trust. He violated his oath as well to faithfully discharge the duties of his office and his statutory duty to control and to guard the border of the United States of America. When he first took office and abandoned the previous administration's policies, he failed to replace them with viable solutions that would enable the Department of Homeland Security to maintain control of the border. He also lied to the American people when he lied to Congress to downplay the chaos that he and President Biden had unleashed on our southern border. And he obscured Congress's investigation every single step of the way. Secretary Mayorkas has demonstrated that he will remain a national threat and a threat to border security and to the American people's health and safety if he's allowed to remain in office. Now, it's unmistakably clear Congress must exercise its constitutional duty to hold Secretary Mayorkas accountable and to bring articles of impeachment against him. However, Secretary Mayorkas has not acted alone in his efforts to undermine our border security. President Biden has repeatedly taken action to reverse Trump-era policies that we know work. Illegal immigration was at its lowest level in decades. And he implemented policies that have made our nation a magnet for illegal immigration. Under President Biden's watch, more than 8.3 million illegal immigrants have entered this country. I'm going to repeat that number. Under President Biden's watch, 8.3 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States of America. House Republicans have identified at least 64 actions taken by President Biden to open our borders, wide open borders, since his very first day in office when he terminated the national emergency at our southern border and announced a 100-day moratorium on deportations and immigration enforcement. Every day since then, he has funded sanctuary cities. He has ended Remain in Mexico, policies in favor of releasing millions of illegal migrants into our country. This has resulted in dire consequences for the American people, from the deadly fentanyl pandemic to the outrageous attack on New York City police officers just last weekend. This is a crisis created by executive order, and the president has the power to fix it by executive order. And as we have outlined here, how he created the problems, and this is what he can do by executive order today if he wanted to fix the problem. He doesn't have to wait for a bipartisan agreement. We're clearly in very divided government. He can fix this right now. Put it in black and white, slap an executive seal on it, and we can seal that border. He has the executive power to do this. His recent calls for legislation are just too little too late. And it's clearly an attempt to cover himself during an election year. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the illegal immigration crisis is the #1 issue raging across the country. Biden's at 60% disapproval rating, and now he's found religion on the border. It's ridiculous. It's honestly embarrassing, and this lack of leadership that we've had on keeping Americans safe is something that the American people can't forget. And he's not going to pass the buck and say, well, you wouldn't agree to this legislation that obviously doesn't go far enough. It normalizes illegal immigration and gives far too much, and we're supposed to just trust him to do the right thing when he's not done the right thing for the last 3 years. At the end of the day, the Biden border crisis has turned every American community into a border community, and it has destroyed countless American families in the process. The American people have had enough of the chaos unfolding at the southern border, and they don't want the chaos coming to the northern border, which is the new attack area for many of the cartels, as we see a 1,000% increase in illegal crossings in the last year alone. That's why the House Republicans passed H.R. 2, the strongest border security bill in our nation's history. It has been sitting at the Senate, at the Majority Leader's office, since May. And that's why we're moving to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, and that's why we need to hold President Biden accountable for his role in this. They can pass H.R. 2 and solve this problem tomorrow, today, tonight, whenever. It can be done. But the time for decisive action is now, and I'll be happy to take your questions. Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Yes, sir. When you hear Governor Hochul say things like the border crisis is the fault of Republicans because they won't get behind this bill, keep it the way it is because it's damaging to the president and to Democrats? What's your response?
No, Governor Hochul ought to be embarrassed, spewing the political rhetoric. I mean, we have been on a soapbox about this issue since the beginning of the year. Again, this can be fixed by executive order. It was created by executive order. We had the border under control. Was it perfect? No, but it was under control. The president opened the border wide, and it wasn't until it starts hitting her bottom line at the state budget level, after New York City, as a sanctuary city, has embraced and said, welcome, please come here, and then they seem surprised when all of a sudden they're full. Over the summer, she tried to say, oh, there's no more room, don't come here. There's a gravy train. People are coming here to get on it, to take advantage of New York State taxpayers, because we give so much so quickly in this state, and we have a government in New York City that has pledged not to follow federal laws. She ought to be embarrassed. She ought to call on the New York City Council to have an emergency session tomorrow to repeal their sanctuary city policies.
And just as a follow-up, this situation as it is right now, and the policies they create, what do you think is their end game, letting all these people in here? What do you think is the end game?
I think you can't look at anything other than it's on purpose, because no one could be this incompetent. Ultimately, it's to bring more people into this country that will abide by their political beliefs. I believe that there's a movement to do. There's no other logical explanation as to why you would have a borderless southern border. I mean, our citizens have been invaded. If you talk to any of the members of Congress from Texas talking about their district on the southern border and what has happened, you've got.
What kind of outreach is the Republicans doing to make these people vote Republican?
They're not citizens, so they shouldn't be voting in any election.
They would be. So what kind of outreach?
I will not support a path to citizenship in any way, shape, or form. So unless. I don't know why they want them here. I ultimately don't know why there is a movement to just have no borders. You would have to ask the president, why are you so negligent in your duties? Why have you made America less secure? Why do you think it's a good idea to let people, because this isn't about Mexico anymore. That's just the point of entry. This is every country in the world. Chinese nationals. I mean, 200 people just this year alone from the terrorist watch list. The terrorist watch list. I mean, I gave you the number 8.3 million over the Biden administration, but just in the month of December, 302,000. 302,000 in 1 month. That's messed up. That's messed up. I mean, we have allowed greater population to come into this country through illegal immigration than the population of 17 of American states. The American people are fed up. They're pissed off. They want action. And the president can do this. The president could do this with a stroke of a pen, because he created the problem with a stroke of a pen. And now they want to put a very weak T immigration bill and combine it with foreign aid bills and say, oh, this is a good compromise. This is weak. This is unacceptable, and we can't trust the administration to actually secure the border. But I will be damned if I support a bill that normalizes 5,000 illegals coming into this country every day.
Is that your biggest issue with this border bill?
I mean, we're finding more and more issues every page we read in this bill. And the analysis is still really being done as to what it means. But catch and release is still alive and well. A Remain in Mexico is not reinstituted. Remain in Mexico is the single most important policy to shutting down the massive influx of illegal immigrants that we saw during the Obama years. Remain in Mexico, we got cooperation from the Mexican government. They provided their own National Guard to help do it. And it solved a lot of the asylum problems. I mean, what have we done here? We've had a president that's allowed everybody to come in. We've called them all asylum seekers. We know damn well that only maybe 90%, 10% will actually qualify for asylum when they get a court date. This is not going to solve the problem. We need a sudden shutdown, and it could happen. It could happen. The president chooses not to let it happen, and I just that's why this bill is dead in the House.
Yeah. Do you think the rest of your conference is generally with you?
I have not seen anyone yet that is excited about the entire package that's been put forward. I mean, certainly not every word on the piece of paper is bad, but I don't see any future for this bill.
I know that you, Congressman, you've mentioned this as being a significant problem at the southern border, but you have expressed in the past that there are some concerns at the northern border. Kind of just, I guess, how does this tie into your concerns with activity at the northern border, whether it's here in Western New York or across the spectrum?
Border security is critical. We're a binational community. I mean, think of the angst that we all had when we heard of the crash that happened at the border plaza, and the fear in that pit in your stomach, and what we thought what could have been. That's what living in a binational community does. We have to have our guard up at all times. We have millions of fighting age men from all over the world that have walked into our country. You know, Kathy Hochul's feeding and clothing them with your tax dollars in New York City. We don't know what their intention is. We don't know why they came here. Trust me, they're not, you know, Mormon missionaries coming in here to spread the gospel. We have not protected the American people. The northern border, and we're going to be doing some stuff this spring once the weather breaks for good, to highlight the northern border more. I'm part of a northern border security caucus that wants to bring more attention and awareness to the fact that we have the largest unguarded border in the world. I mean, it's a beautiful, peaceful partner that we have in Canada, but their immigration policies are a lot different than ours. I spent a day in August, as some of you covered it, with our folks at U.S. Border Patrol up in Grand Island. Those men and women that do that job, they're incredible, and it was really so eye-opening to what the resources they have to cover it, but also just how much territory they have in the Buffalo sector, which goes from here all the way down to Virginia. And then the Swanton district, it's all of the rest of upstate down into New York City. They have a huge role, and we have to watch the southern border. We're dealing with an international conglomerate that we're up against. This isn't, just a ragtag bunch. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the cartels have money, they have vehicles, they have weapons, they have intelligence. I mean, this is like facing off with the government in a war, because we are in a war for the safety of our own country. And we can't allow, the northern border, which is certainly more porous, to be assaulted. We're not going to propose a wall on the northern border, but damn it, we need to finish the one on the southern border. That would, that razor wire that Governor Abbott put there, that's helping out. That's slowing things down. It's just, common sense has to prevail. And that's what I think the American people struggle with. When I go around, the district, people are like, why can't they see what's going on? Why is the president fighting the governor of Texas about razor wire? If you don't belong in here, don't go up to the razor wire. Pretty easy. Let's just do on topics first.
About Mayorkas, what's the tangible impact of a congressional article of impeachment against a cabinet member?
Well, it's only been done once, but I think that this is very important to have this debate. It flushes this out into the open and just shows how damn serious we are about this. That he is so derelict in his duties. He is so smug. He has withheld so much information. I believe he's lied to the Congress. I mean, you're going around telling the American people that the southern border is secure. 8.3 million people have come across the border. Again, people on the terrorist watch list. I mean, this is a dereliction of duty that I don't think we have ever seen from a cabinet secretary. And whether this is willful ignorance and incompetence, or he's just the stooge that's been put forward to do the dirty work of this administration, we're going to flush that out. And I believe that we will pass that article this week. The border's on the ballot this year. And unfortunately, we're going to have to make a choice in November as to which direction we're going to go. Open borders or sealed borders.
Isn't there a separation of powers issue here, though? The president is generally the one that makes the decisions on their appointments once that confirmation comes through. This sets a new precedent, doesn't it?
But, I mean, this certainly is something that's only been done once. But the dereliction of duty, I think, needs to be put on full display here. Now, will 60 senators do the right thing? No. I mean, let's get real. 60 senators won't do the right thing on most things. I mean, this border bill is great evidence of that. I mean, this is garbage. And the fact that this was the product that everyone's waited for 2 months, Joe Biden could have faxed that over. Any other on topic? Now we'll go to